So our next speaker brings unmatched experience in the global rare earth materials sector. He honestly doesn't need much of an introduction. His name is Constantine Karayannopoulos. He is one of the leading experts in the world on rare earth minerals and rare earth products and materials. He is the president of Cloney Inc. and the retired CEO of Neo Performance Materials. And he's going to discuss why Energy Fuels' rare earth strategy is a game changer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Curtis. Well, good morning. How do you follow Leyland? I mean, come on. Thanks, Mark, for putting me up to speak after Leyland. But honestly, though, it was quite the inspirational speech and presentation that Leyland gave us. And I have 3 sons, and I hope my grandchildren will all go to follow STEM education, since you brought it up. So I'll start my comments, and they won't be very long. Mark and I spoke for the first time about, 5.5 years ago or thereabout. I was retired, was on my second retirement. I'm now in my third retirement, so I'm a serial retiree, I guess. But I've been in the rare earth industry since 1993. So the rare earth industry is sort of like Hotel California. You never leave. I mean, you always keep coming back. And I see people here who have come back and will be coming back. It's fun, it's exciting, it's interesting, it's tremendously challenging. So Mark and I had our first conversation in the spring of 2000, and he was figuring out how to get Energy Fuels into the critical minerals space, and he had some ideas. And my first reaction is really the title of what I wanted to talk to you about today, which is, Energy Fuels strategy and why it is a game changer in the rare earth industry. I'm not qualified to talk about uranium other than to say that if we believe in that climate change is a fundamental issue that we all need to deal with, we cannot decarbonize without nuclear energy. I mean, you can't get there. Simple energy balance. I'm a chemical engineer, so I like to think in terms of mass and energy balances. So I hope you won't hold that against me. So Mark and I were talking about rare earths, and this is the time when I had visited with Brock. I believe we were there in Florida and Georgia. We visited a company that was extracting heavy mineral sands primarily for titanium, white pigment, TiO2, and zircon, and then they were stockpiling a waste stream that was monazite. And, I promise not to use too many geeky terms. So monazite is a great mineral bearing a lot of rare earths, excellent distribution of rare earths, all the useful elements are in it, and it does have uranium and thorium, which in classical rare earth practice is a big problem. Because you look at every single rare earth project around the world, every rare earth deposit, and all these rare earth deposits have radioactivity coming from uranium and thorium. And that's just nature, because for those of you who still remember what the periodic table looks like, the rare earth elements and the so-called lanthanides and the actinides, the uranium series, are very close together, and they behave chemically very similarly. In fact, the rare earths were the model system back during the days of the Manhattan Project. When people were trying to build purification systems, they used rare earths to do that, so they wouldn't have to work with uranium and other radioactive materials at the time. So if every rare earth deposit has uranium and thorium and other radioactive elements in it, how do you extract the rare earths in a way that is safe and responsible and makes sense? And that, in my view, over the previous 30 years, was one of the biggest if not the defining problem in the rare earth industry. How do you deal with the radioactivity that invariably occurs with every single rare earth project in the world? Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less, but it's always there. So in our conversation with Mark, I said, Mark, White Mesa is the missing link. And if you can deal with the radioactivity in the rare earths in a way that no other rare earth processing facility in the world can deal with it, perhaps with the exception of China, then this is a game changer because nobody else can do what you can do. So I came to IPTA, we walked around, and what also struck me, the ability of Energy Fuels to deal with uranium and other radioactive materials is unique in the critical mineral space. But it's also a necessary critical skill that very few other companies have, and no companies in the rare earth and other critical mineral space possess. So the other missing link that Energy Fuels brings to the table is a skill set. I'll go back to Leyland's comment about STEM. And I remember, last year I gave a presentation in DC at the annual Rare Earth Conference, and I showed a chart from the OECD that basically says that China graduates more engineers than we graduate graduates in North America of all disciplines. Now, so this is definitely a blind spot in North America, that we don't have enough people who know what rare earths are and how to process them and how to turn them into useful products. Well, Brock is here, so he's the exception because he's been doing this for 40 years. I'm not calling you old, Brock, but he knows a hell of a lot more about this than most people in the world. And when I was working, I did have a number of plants in China, and I can tell you that I could hire graduates out of college, out of university in China, throw them into my plants, and it would be immediately productive. Anywhere else in the world, I just hire smart kids, train them for 3 years before I allowed them to touch anything in the plants. So we have a massive skills deficit when it comes to critical minerals compared to, the biggest presence out there, which is China. And if we're ever hoping to close the gap and become independent, I think that's something that needs to be addressed very quickly. Europe is trying to do it. I think there's a few universities in North America that are trying, but we need to keep going in that direction. However, here's an exception. The primary skill sets that are required in order to process rare earths exist right in this plant. So we're making the rounds with Mark. Logan, who's hiding somewhere, he's been doing solvent extraction, a classical uranium purification method, and guess what? That's exactly what you need to purify and process rare earths. So the jump for Energy Fuels from rare earth production from uranium production to rare earth production was very short. It wasn't a massive gap that Mark and his team had to close. And the team here at White Mesa has done a fantastic job to the point where using a waste material or a material that used to be a waste for certain operations, it becomes a primary raw material for rare earth extraction. There's some uranium in it, and what Energy Fuels brought to the table was this unique ability to deal with radioactivity. It also brought a unique skill set that you can easily transport from uranium processing to rare earth refining. And finally, it brought an experience, multi-decades experience in a plant that is fully permitted, is operating responsibly, and the incremental expansion into rare earth production will be massively lower cost than any of the projects that are going on around in the world, having to spend new capital and having to go through the permitting process in order to be able to produce rare earths and perhaps more importantly, in order to be able to deal with the thorium and the uranium and the other radioactive elements that become byproducts of rare earth production. White Mesa and Energy Fuels is in the eye of the storm. I think it has a fantastically attractive strategic position in rare earths. There's a lot of people around me that know a lot more about uranium. Again, I won't comment on uranium, other than to say that it's indispensable. But when it comes to rare earths, it really is here in Utah a situation that I have never seen anywhere else in the world. And it could be an absolute game changer on the United States and the West's ability to become self-sufficient and independent when it comes to the production of rare earths and perhaps other critical minerals. So with that, thank you again, Mark, for the invitation. Fantastic event. Looking forward to walking around and seeing the solvent extraction batteries out there. So thank you all.